So, hi, I'm Daniel. Maybe you remember I've been talking at Hackcon once. It was 10 minutes ago. Who does remember? Okay, fair fraction. So today I would like to talk a little bit about hackathons. What is a hackathon? What do I understand on a hackathon? What do you understand on a hackathon? And first I would like to start to show you a little bit what is my daily hack. My daily hack is at Cern, the Large Hadron Collider. Data analysis, I'm an expert for semiconductor and diamond detectors. And this was the start when the LHC, this was the day when the LHC started. I was happy. I'm trying to summarize here what I do, what my daily business is in one sentence. We record something like, or we produce 60 terabytes per second. We can record something like 1 gigabyte per second. And what we try to do, we run over a year, and we try to find this 1 gigabyte per year that is interesting. So I'm a lot in data reduction, smart algorithm to filter out and to analyze data. When we started to think about a hackathon, Wikipedia, marathon, whatever, I think we understood what it roughly is. And marathon is something like 49.195 kilometers, or something like 30.56 miles. Who of you have ever been running a marathon? Okay, you can go out. I cannot tell you anything, you know everything. But the marathon has a quite well-defined goal. Huh? You don't talk about that you have been running a marathon if you gave up after 49 kilometers and you didn't make the remaining 500 meters. But what is the goal of a hackathon? What is the outcome of a hackathon that you're expecting? I really like to think more in the terms of a concert organizer than in terms of this marathon. Huh? This is a nice concert or a nice festival, which you might know. Many people. Maybe hackathons will also look like, at some point, like this. I like more this. Concerts. David Guetta playing in front of 20 people. I don't know why it's so pixelated, but it's funny, who cares? But the big ones and the small ones have their special sauce, huh? And it's up to everybody to decide what you really like. I really like the small ones. It's just my taste. Huh? I really like this talk about Hexu from Kevin. And we disagreed a little bit, but this was just about the animal, because he said that this hacking for goods are elephants. We discussed. I think we didn't conclude what it really is. So I tried to. For me, it's more complicated. For me, it's something like an elephant holding a medusa and holding a jellyfish, and then on top was riding a mantis.
That makes way more sense.
I cannot even explain you why, but sometimes with hacking for goods, they are slow, with a long memory, I fully agree. But sometimes if you just hit the right topic, it goes like a mantis, huh? It just kicks off. At Cern, we also have this big zoo of different events. Huh? And I would like to show you a little bit of this hackathon zoo that we have. One event that is really nice and running since many years for local children, local school children, is called Raspberry Pi at Cern. The children are French, so it's in French. And there are children coming for 2 days to Cern. They are aged from, 5 years to 36 or 50 years old, whatever. And they hack for 2 days on the Raspberry Pi. It's not an overnight event, but they have also workshops. And they do this for 2 days, and then at the end they present. There are very little prizes, and there's no real competition involved in that. Then our student hackathon. It's called Cern Webfest. There's a funny story why it's called like this. I think 4 years ago when it was created, hacking was bad. Nobody at Cern wanted to hear something about hackers. So we called it Webfest. Now everybody understands what a hackathon is. Now people ask us, why don't you call it a hackathon? Now it's called Cern Webfest. Yeah? We have summer students. We do this together with Mozilla, and the winning team then flies here to London to go to the Mozilla Festival in November this time. Then another hackathon that I would like to show you is the so-called Cineglobe hackathon. Cineglobe is an association connected to Cern, and there we work together with the film industry. Yeah? There's Tribeca Film Institute, there's some film schools, there's the Locarno Film Festival, one of the big festivals for movies. And there we try to tell stories about science in the hackathon. These hackathons typically run over several weeks, or a full week, or now we have one that is distributed over half a year, and in total 6 weekends connected to each other. There we build projects like, this was shown at the Lift Innovator Conference, is a mobile little cinema with some VR inside. We have projects mostly with VR, Oculus or Samsung Gear. Connecting it, for example, also with some art projects, where you have some art installation, and then you have a VR component in this. So, back to the original question. Many events don't deserve to be called hackathon, following the classical definition, I would say. I'm not pointing with a finger to anybody besides myself, so ask the question, do we? And I hope you help me to answer that. I really, really liked this definition of Alexi, the jam session for makers. I'm pretty sure we meet that. So the hackathon at Cern will happen in October. It's under the motto Science for Peace. Because we knew 1.5 years ago that I will come today here to speak to you, we bought a London bus for that. And we even bought a greenish one. And this is our health part. We have 2 venues and we do 2 events in parallel. And one is at Cern and one is at Campus Biotech. I will show you on the next slide some pictures of a venue. Here we go. So Campus Biotech, let's start with that, for the health sector, which is a nice venue, corporate venue from the design style, pretty much like what we have here. Maybe this place is something like 4 times bigger than what we have here with Aula. And then it's connected with our 5 buildings that are connected to each other. And then the other venue is the so-called Idea Square. Physicists think that is somehow funny with ideas and funny. Idea Square, huh? You can laugh. Okay, fine, enough. So Idea Square is an old workshop that was completely renovated. It is filled up with containers, glass containers. So it's a mobile system that you can put with containers wherever you need them. And then we're hacking in the space, and there you see our red bus. Wedding special. Don't ask about the red bus. Just don't ask. What we do different? I think a little bit different to some hackathons is that we have a quite work-intensive application process. I will tell you a little bit about that. It's work-intensive for the applicants, but even much more work-intensive for us. We have predefined topics, and these topics are collected from international organizations, and participants also can propose a topic. And this is done typically 4 months before the hackathon. So we need quite some preparation time. The organizations, these are the Red Cross, United Nations, Norwegian People Aid, I will show you some. And then these topics are summarized on a 1-pager. And this 1-pager has a 2 to 3 line summary, a 5-line aim or goal of this topic, and then something what we call resources. So something where we identified that some technology or some experience that we have could help with that. And then very, very important, you will see a lot of them. Each topic we represent with a 2-symbol graphics. When you see them, you will understand what I mean. It's very important for us that each topic that we put in there has a so-called problem owner. Somebody who proposed this topic and somebody who says, if it's interesting, I will follow up with that. The team assignment, we don't let the teams decide themselves. We assign the teams. And this is done with experts from human resources and team facilitators. How I do it, I will show you later on the next slide. We do some long-term participant recognition. I think this is also going a little bit what DevPost was showing. This is very, very important for us. So we have some kind of alumni network. We try to get for each topic a world-leading field expert as mentors. We have a preparation phase, so the teams are informed 6 weeks, 7 weeks before the event, and then they meet virtually once per week with a video conference system. This is very, very important because 3 weeks before the event, we ask the teams to come up with a wish list. And they can put on this wish list hardware, they can put on expertise. I need a guy who knows about this and this programming because it's missing in our team, or whatever. On the arrival day, we do some special entertainment. I will show you some pictures. We do some inspirational break program. We'll also see some pictures. We're really fostering team exchange. So we have typically 6 teams in one venue. And then we ask also the teams to really exchange a little bit, to go for half an hour in another team and look at their problem. One thing that we really require is that at the end, after 60 hours, the teams come with a tangible prototype, something that they put on a table, which is not just a presentation, which is not just a piece of software. It has to have some hardware component. We don't do prizes. We've discussed a long, long time about this, but we don't do prizes. What we have are so-called achievement badges. They're just virtual. We don't do any swag. Sorry, Dave. Besides a mug, and I will show you the mug. And we provide some support to follow up. That was a long list. Sorry for that. You will see that in pictures now. I hope you like that more. So, team assembly and selection. Work-intensive application process, I told you. We ask our teams to make an application form, hand in a CV, to name 2 referees. And we don't care who the referees are. The important thing is that they know this person well. In a second selection process, what we do is we select from the CV, from the paper form, we select them typically 90 candidates that make a video interview. They get 3 questions asked. We have a web browser, they are recorded, we have a web browser, and with questions, for each question we have 2 minutes to answer. And why do we do that? Because we want to learn what the people who are applying are interested in. We want to know that we put them in the right team. We want to know where we would fit in best. And sometimes when we do special requests to the referees or the participants, what we end up is with highly motivated and extremely good participants. We got quite some comments on that. We're trying to build some elite hackathon or whatever. No, absolutely not. What we do is we have this different hackathon formats, and we try to make all of them most efficient. This is really the high end for it. This is our premium product that we try to do. The other ones, they offer everybody a chance to participate. Here, we really want to go very, very specialized. And we try to balance these teams in expertise, gender, character, age. This means what it means. Good participants. We have people who never studied, but who show some innovation and creativity that is really, really important for the team. We do things different. I don't say that we do things better, but we like to try to make experiments. We like to try out new things. Some of them work, some of them don't. But we try to do experiments. So this is the event from last year. These are the 6 topics. Don't read them because I will tell you more about it. But here you also see what is important to us, so that we give teams, participants, a face and a biography. We have to connect them somehow to a team. We prepare this, so that they see this building up when they send in their picture and their bio, it appears on a website. Not all together, but step by step. With our poster, with our participants. So just to give you some example participants, Chen from Brown, he's also one of the organizers from Hack at Brown. I would say he's one of the example typical hackers that we have with CS background, but also some design background. Different background, this is something what we would call a communicator. This is Fernando. He's a magician. He learned magical tricks and he won several prizes for doing magical tricks. And what he does, what his specialty is, he explains very, very complicated technical facts by doing magical tricks. I will show you later what he did. An example mentor, for example, an architect. This is David. He's actually here from London. He worked as an architect under Norman Foster. And then he decided in the 90s, basically, to make some of the first internet companies here in London. And he were leading the project that became Yelp. He's one of the authors of RSS. And he's behind the bookmarking concept behind Pinterest. We try to be very, very international. This is what we reached last time. 65 participants, 28 nationalities. For this year, we aim to have, or we're pretty sure we will have 120 participants, because the application process is already started and teams are already working in 41 nationalities. Age distribution, quite not what you normally have in a student hackathon. We have students. I think last year we had one participant who was 16-year-old, and I think 2 who were 18. This year we have 2 who are 16 years old, but we peak typically at something like 30 years. Because what we require is that the participants, the applicants, have at least 3 years of professional work experience. Or, and this is very important, because how should somebody with 16 years have 3 years work experience? Or somehow demonstrate to us that they're extremely innovative or creative. Age distribution goes up to, don't even start here, but when we start to ask for age. Field of expertise. How many are coming from CS? So not very clear from here, because I think roughly half of Cern, what we labeled here Cern, is coming from CS, plus with IT, maybe half of the associated. But the rest, and this all totally makes something like 20%, 25%, maybe even more, maybe 30%. The rest is coming from all kinds of expertise. Some scientists that have nothing to do with physics, what we do at Cern, they're biologists, chemists, they're innovators, they're entrepreneurs, they're coming from the humanitarian side, they're coming from communication, science communicators, or people from journalism, engineers, designers, product designers, artists, education. Gender. We tried our very, very best. We reached in the first time 33%. We are somehow between proud and we could have done maybe a little bit better. So this year we hope for 40%, but this shouldn't be the end. Just as a comparison, in Cern, we have the same problems, lots of engineers, lots of CS people, lots of physicists. We reached something like 20%. So some more backgrounds, I just don't want to go through the list, but typically international academia, international big companies, what else? International big organizations. This is where our applicants and participants work. But we have people who have never worked at a big company. They just show to us that we're very, very innovative. We have entrepreneurs who have never worked for a big company. Inspiration. I told you that we do some entertainment program for them, because we don't have prizes, we don't have swag. What we give is some special experience. This is the prize. So, for example, some visits underground. This is some visits of an accelerator, also very special visit. Typically, normally it's not possible for visitors to do that. And then on the evening of our arrival day, we showed them a movie. It was called Leia. It is basically was shot at Cern, and they met the director and the two main actors. Hacking. Who of you had to call the fire brigade during one of your events? No? We did it, but we didn't do it because somebody was injured. Huh? This is a team that was developing a new body bag, and the fire brigade helped them. Did you have something like this? This is a team developing a new fridge. And the idea is that they use only components that you find on each scrapyard, that you find all over the world. They ended up with a fridge that is powered with rum, the cheapest rum that you can get. 3D printing, now you see it, some of the hackathon and makeathons getting more and more common. Ambulance, we also call it the ambulance. Again, not because somebody was injured, but because we liked what they can help us. And here you see the team taking basically apart the equipment of the ambulance. The ambulance liked that, they really helped us. It was really, really great. So all those pictures that I showed you we have also people sitting in front of computers and coding. All these topics involve some software development, some app development. But you know all those pictures. I don't have to show you people sitting in front of computers. I showed you the special pictures that we have. Inspiration, we believe that everybody needs a break, switch off the brain. So one inspiration thing was we asked Tesla to provide us a test driving car, and everybody who said, I need a half-an-hour break, went off with a Tesla for half an hour. Swag, I told you we don't have swag. Not completely true, we have two things. This is the invitation. You're allowed to keep the invitation. And then as a souvenir, we have a mug, also with a picture of all the participants. It's not that we have anything against swag, but this is not the motivation why people come to our hackathon. And we didn't want it to make it somehow going into this direction. Again, we have nothing against prizes for other hackathons. We have nothing against swag for other hackathons. But in this one, we try to do it differently and try and see what happens. So let me tell you a little bit about the projects. I was talking about the event format a lot. This is a project called Blind Store. Don't read all the text. It's a private information retrieval data store, which means you have a database. You have some information in the database. The information in the database can be encrypted. You can send an encrypted query to this database. You get back an encrypted answer. Fine, happens every day. The specialty of this is that there's no decryption at the server. The server itself has no idea what the query was, nor what the answer was. What this allows to do for companies like Bloomberg or Reuters or other companies who are dealing with financial data, I leave up to your imagination, or to the answer session. And we demonstrated this very, very complex encryption method. It's a homomorphic encryption. The papers have been published 2 years ago for that. And they made the first implementation, and they demonstrated it with Ferdinando, a magician, who used a magical trick to explain it. Terrain elevation determination for refugee camps. This is a topic coming from the United Nations. They came with a problem that they have to use satellite data to measure the elevation in refugee camps. Because if you don't do that, you put the tents somewhere where it's going to be a flooding when it starts to rain. We immediately came up with high tech. Oh, we can use a laser drone and we measure it to blah, blah. Doesn't work. We ended up using a smartphone and the barometric function of a smartphone in a connected way of a network to measure it. Why? Because you will never manage to get a drone into these conflict areas where you have to build up a refugee camp. So even if you sometimes start with very, very high tech, it's important for us that we have this expert from a humanitarian field who tell us, wonderful, this will work in the middle of London or in the middle of Geneva, but it will never work out in the field. This is what we came up with. This is the tool that we developed in 60 hours. Conflict zone humanitarian demarcation certificate. Basically, what they developed is a mobile passport for ambulances driving across checkpoints in conflict zones. So working with long-range Bluetooth. And the idea is that you can create a certificate for the ambulance, and then you can go with this passport and get it verified by everybody. Pretty simple to do if you have data connection. The goal was to do it safe without having a data connection at the checkpoint. So you need a data connection once when you create the certificate, not anymore. And additionally, what they did is they built up basically a light beacon that you can put onto hospitals and in an encrypted way makes a demarcation of this hospital, so it's not bombarded. Tracking and demarcation system for dogs in rescue and demining operations. So you see here, I forgot to mention this, these are these little topic drawings that we always do to visualize what this topic is about. So this team ended up to make a lot of 3D printing using Arduinos, using Raspberry Pis, and then they developed this little backpack for dog, for demining dog, that allows them to track a demining dog, to have a better communication with a demining dog, and then increase the efficiency of his demining operation by a factor of 10. Who of you had a dog at his hackathon already? No? Also not. Try new things, huh? $10 inflatable fridge for field operations I told you about. Idea was to make some micro fridge that you can transport vaccination with. These are the vaccinations with a vaccination holder that they designed and 3D printed. Then they built a fridge out of alcohol that you can power with alcohol. I have to tell you, we have a no alcohol policy in this building because we have a mechanical workshop, an electronics workshop in there. No alcohol allowed. They won a special prize, a special badge, because they managed to bring alcohol into the scientific need to build a fridge. They built a little fridge to transport all this. And then the other half of the team was developing a body bag. I will also show you some pictures more about that. Body bag and a complete system, how to manage the data that comes with dead people. It's not a nice topic to talk about, but it's a very, very important one. And the International Red Cross took up this topic and they made now together an association, and they're making now together a research and development contract. Then this is a physics topics, portable cosmic ray detectors. As maybe some of you know, we are all the time bombarded by some particles. They're called muons. And basically every second there's a muon going through each of us. And to measure this is interesting. Many school children do it today in Western Europe because they can afford to buy some kind of detector to learn about this physics. But these detectors are expensive. They cost typically $1,000. The aim was to reduce the cost for that to $200 so that school children in developing countries, for example, can also learn about that. They ended up in one weekend in 60 hours to design a PCB, to load it, making some simulations and getting then some signals out. Presentations. Who of you had somebody in a body bag during his final presentations? I was really thinking if I should show you this because I'm still liking the naked rugby players. I cannot top that. I don't even want to try, but we had also some cool things. So we had somebody in a body bag. We had the team who made the alcohol fridge. We had the team also from the body bag who made some studies with rotten fish. So they bought on the first day some fish. They put it into different bags and for the study, what they can do better with the body bags. And then after 3 days, they presented the rotten fish during the final presentation. But they learned a lot from that. Then the demining, we had a deminer and the demining dog you have already seen. This is Viking, the demining dog in the final presentations. And the magical trick that we had in the final presentation. What we also try to do is we try to help the teams to follow up on these projects. Here you see the body bag team. They are in the meeting of a World Forensic Advisory Board to the ICRC, presenting the topic. When at the United Nations, we got invited to present most of the topics, well, I think all of them, most of the topics at the United Nations for 3 days. We were invited to several conferences like the ITU World, the LIFT conference, and then some teams went to the ScienceX Kickstarter in New York to work on one topic. One thing that we also do different is we have achievement badges. This is a little bit what you've also seen on DevPost, that for hackers there are some badges of what their expertise is. We have badges that for these projects, they are not predefined, they are coming spontaneously. So for example, we never planned to make a badge for Cocktail, which was an alcohol fridge, or Fire Brigade, or Red Cross. These are all badges that we invented on the way up. These are the topics of this year, and I'm about to finish. So I don't want to go through all of them, just to tell you a little bit some examples. We are working on counterfeiting drugs because in Africa, many of the drugs that you buy in a pharmacy are counterfeits, up to 80%. And some of them, 40%, are really harmful. Pharmacies cannot buy the necessary devices to verify that these drugs are real and will not harm the patients. Baby incubator, closing the technology gender gap we have been talking about, also a topic from the United Nations. Humanitarian field data, that's maybe one topic, this is from the United Nations, where the idea is to use some augmented reality glasses, and the ones that we use are basically used for helicopter pilots. And the idea is that decision makers, presidents or head of states flying over a catastrophe region don't only see the destroyed houses of a flooding or an earthquake, but they get information into their eye directly about how many people have been living there, is there still electricity, how many people have been living there. All this live in the live feed, what they see in the helicopter. Do try experiments. That's my only message to you. For self-rating for the marathon, I think with this, we reached something like a little bit more than a half marathon. We have several more ideas to make it better. Several things didn't work out like we wanted, but I think we are at the half marathon level. But we'll keep trying to experiment and to try out new things. Thanks a lot.